So, John, looks like I can add cancer survivor to my profile page.
Woo-hoo. All right. Major congratulations to you. That is amazing news. And we are going to do an episode about that coming up very, very soon. So stay tuned, subscribe, do all of that good stuff. In the meantime, Scott, what did you receive in the mail?
I received something as, I guess, kind of something celebratory.
Oh, yeah. Look what I got. I actually happen to have one too.
Huh?
From the Boring Company.
From the Boring Company, yes.
Burnt hair. And I got mine a week ago. I have not smelled it yet. So we are going to do live on air or whatever, record it on air. Smells fine so far.
Find out.
Here, I'll pull this up. Burnt hair, singed. Very, very elegant, very nice cloth box. All right. And then, whoa, nice I do not want to drop this or spill this. And then check this out. I mean, come on. That's beautiful. All right. Show them yours, Scott.
I haven't even opened it and I can still smell it. I mean, that's that pungent. It's going through everything. I think I already know what it smells like.
Yours must have leaked a little. All right, you ready? You ready? I don't even know how to open this. I assume it's a twist off or something. Good gracious.
I'm putting it down so I don't accidentally spill this.
Okay. So it pulls straight up. All right, here we go, folks. Did you enjoy it? Oh.
They should rename it, Oh, Do You Reek? Oh.
Yeah,
I think we can say it smells awful.
Hey, you know what it is not?
Smells awful.
You know what it's not? Boring.
Definitely not boring.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
That smells bad.
Usually you wear perfume to attract the opposite sex, right? Elon, how is this going to help with the population decline?
Well, I know what it is. If you're a fly, then like you would attract many people. So we should just give this to flies and flies will reproduce like crazy.
We're great for flies, but well, the typical Elon, it's about 3 years too late.
Right.
Because if we had it in the summer of 2020, they could have sold it under the name of social distancing. Would have worked really great.
Yeah, instead of singe down here, it could have just been social distancing.
Exactly.
I love it. So this is going to go back on my shelf somewhere back there. It's going to have a place of pride, and it's also going to have a place where it will not be disturbed because I do not want it to break. The last thing in the world I want is this bottle to break. I can't even imagine however many ounces this is. It actually doesn't say, but however many ounces of burnt hair this is, I do not want this in my studio. All right, there you go. Well, almost. Let's see.
Be a little bit dangerous and put it here. Yeah, live life on the edge.
Yeah, you are definitely living life on the edge there. Burnt hair, baby. All right. So what are our shirts before we start in on this today? Because we got some pictures to look at. What are our shirts? You've got I'll start with mine. The best paint is no paint. Grab that in the merch store if you want.
The classic Cybertruck shirt.
Yeah, classic.
Why do we have the Cybertruck shirts on today?
Oh, and don't forget also this. People always say to hold it still in front. So there you go. You can get that at the merch store too. Good old Cybertruck thing. Yes. Why are we wearing Cybertruck shirts today?
Well, it's the day after the quarterly report. And everyone's probably expecting us to talk about Optimus. And we can talk about that probably in another episode. But there were a couple of things that kind of jumped out at me that were in the report. And of course, mostly in the report. I don't think there was much discussion actually in the conference call. So going through the report, there were two pictures, and that's where my real specialty is kind of looking at manufacturing lines and simulations. So I'm going back to my origins there.
There we go.
And we can go ahead and take a look.
More on that in a minute, but first, I know that all of us want to learn way more than we have time for. I mean, look at all these books back here. Yeah, I've read a bunch of them, but not all of them. Well, let me tell you, Shortform and the all-new Shortform AI extension are the answer you've been looking for. They make the world's best guides to nonfiction books. It's like book summaries on steroids. And not only do they have amazing summaries of books, but they also have great summaries of current articles like this one on moldy cheese. I read it and sent that one to my wife because we have very very different feelings about eating moldy foods. And if you thought that wasn't awesome enough, Shortform now has a Chrome extension called Shortform AI that summarizes anything on the internet, including YouTube videos. For example, let's look at this recent archive article on L. Pegasus, which is a large language model. We just go over to the right here, click the Shortform icon, and in a few seconds, we get a summary of the entire article with the main points. And if that's not enough, Shortform adds context, counter arguments, and links to where you can learn more about the topic. Let's take a look at Lex Friedman's recent interview with Mark Andreessen. It clocks in at over 3 hours. And in seconds, you get a summary of everything they discuss, some really useful context about AI, and some excellent links that I looked at about ChatGPT, brief history of artificial intelligence, and about AI regulation. Let me tell you, Shortform and Shortform AI are true game changers for me. And if this sounds exciting to you, you can get a 25% discount on Shortform, which includes unlimited access to Shortform AI at my link shortform.com/Dr. Know-It-All, or scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. So what are you waiting for? Get 25% off, get access to all of Shortform's library, and also get access to the Shortform AI Chrome extension, and start learning and retaining more today. Now let's get back to it.
Okay, so these were the pictures of the Cybertruck line that we got to see. So this is like picture number 1 and picture number 2.
Right.
And we'll come back to picture number 1 because the first thing I was trying to do is figure out what's going on. And when I saw all these sort of orange protective plastic that's here, my mind first went to, well, that's normally what you see like around an arc welding cell or something like that in order to prevent, any eye injury or anyone that's walking by if there's anything bright. But I don't think these are arc welding cells. It looks like they're just kind of up there right now as some sort of protection as they assemble the line, because it would make no sense that you would actually have these along a line. It constantly has to go through there, and then why you would have them over here as well. Right. So I was trying to figure out what was going on, and when I then looked in really closely down here, I ended up seeing what are just some water bottles. Okay, a full water bottle and a crushed water bottle, which kind of tells you that's like, oh, that means they're still working on the line, still in a construction. Okay. There were other things you could see, like there's some power tools around here and a few other places. Right. And this here, I'm going to circle that right there.
A little ladder. Yeah.
It looks like, but the ladder's not going up. I'm trying to see the base. It looks kind of strange. I'm assuming, okay, is that like a step ladder that just happens to be there? Where's the top of it? Hopefully it's not there because it will be in the way of other stuff. So it means this line right here is not functional.
Right.
Now, the first thing
I will say one thing. I will say one thing about the line though is doing. You've done how many tours did you do at Giga Texas? Like one. Just one. Yeah, tour. But I mean, when you saw that kind of overhead crane line for the Model Y looks, similar enough to what we're seeing here.
It's similar. I'm trying to guess what's going on here because at first I thought, well, are these the actual tables that something's being assembled there as a sub-assembly? Right. And no, it's not. What this is it's part of the overall conveyor system, because you'll see that this element is duplicated again and again and again. So if we go to the next slide, we'll get kind of a little bit of an idea that we have a Cybertruck body that's on a sled of some sort, and that sled moves from station to station, and you can see it's sort of sliding or advancing along these things and then getting clamped down. So that's definitely kind of the conveyor line that's getting set up, and that's how it's moving in. And this seems to be a station that clearly is functioning, that the Cybertruck is able to come through. And we'll come back to this in a second in a little bit more detail.
And I know you tweeted something out to Corey Steuben, right? I think about
I've got questions. So I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on here and what the flow is. So I suspect that, something starts down here and it keeps on going, from station to station to station, and they're building this up right now, whatever is supposed to go around here. And when I set it out, I kind of roughly drew in what I assume might be like 4 robots, robot here or there, or something like that. But I could be completely wrong. It could be a manual station. Who knows what it's going to be? But, I'm expecting something's going to go on here. And then it's like, well, then what happens next? Well, if we look over here, these big reddish orangish things here, they look like they're transfer sleds.
Okay.
That this whole unit is going to slide over to here, and it doesn't draw very well. Basically, these things are sliding on the floor.
Okay.
To here, along something there, and it probably transfers onto this. and then it transfers back over and goes in. Now, at first I was like, okay, this better just be a stepladder that's there for something.
Right.
But it doesn't look like a normal stepladder. It looks a little bit funny to me, but
yeah, it's like a
thinking of the
ladder to
perspective.
nowhere. Yeah.
And if it is a ladder, or if it's actually supposed to be there, it seems to be getting in the way of these things going back and forth. Because
Right.
I don't know
Yeah,
how
that's for sure.
this thing is going to line up with the other. So I suspect it's really not supposed to be there, or it's some weird optical illusion. So
Right.
let me just get back to where that picture was here. So this here, I'm assuming, lines up with that. So whatever body is coming down here can get transferred over to there and then pop back in there. And we can see that, they have these curtains up here for now, again, to maybe protect people while assembly is happening. But normally what you have is you have these light curtains. So you see, you're like, here's a light curtain,
Right.
and there's a light curtain. So all these things here are to be able to tell where people are coming through here. So the last two I just did is probably to tell whether someone is entering here. These are to be able to tell when something is coming off the line when you expect it, or someone is attempting to walk into there. And then the same thing's over there. So the light curtain will clear itself every now and then when it's expecting the body to go in. But when it's not, it will then stop everything. So we can see those light poles, and we can see that there's some more over here and right over there. So those are kind of the virtual ones versus a physical barrier that's going to be there.
And it looks like, I mean, obviously there's caging for the rest of it to keep people away.
Yeah, there's plenty of caging. So you get a lot of caging to keep everyone out, but at some point things got to get in and out of that cell. So you need some sort of entranceway or doorway.
Do you have an insight into it? Do you think this is like halfway through the production line or almost the end of it? Like it's
what I think is happening is
it like a U-shaped production line or a linear one? I guess that's the question. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably linear, and then maybe it has to turn around and go back for some reason. It's basically come to the end of the hall, and you're just transferring from here over there. That's my suspicion. The other possibility you have is this acts like a drawbridge in a sense that, maybe it comes over here and continues to go across the line over there, but it doesn't make sense because I don't see traffic going through here. I think what it really is just to shuttle it from here on over to there, get into there, because again, we're seeing a similar kind of unit here that goes on here. And then the question is, well, what's this doing hanging up in the air? And as we can see, the Cybertruck is covered. So this whole thing is just, it's very suspicious that if this is a recent photo, it means there's still a lot of work to be done, or they're showing us a very old photo during the construction. Right. Because they don't want us to really see what's going on. Yeah. And there's another possibility, which a couple other people have thought of that I was thinking of as well, but I don't know that it would happen at this stage already. It could be a parallel line. Oh, so there could be two, but there could be two, because there's no something does not add up here, that if they have already got the first one to come off of production, if they've already built one, why are we seeing a line that's incomplete? And there's only two answers. One is that this is a very old picture. Right. Or this is a parallel line. Yeah. But it doesn't make sense that it's a parallel line because there's no overhead like sled there. So, well, it could just be a second production line in order for them to be able to ramp up to produce what they want. But to me, it seems a bit early in the game to already be making a parallel line. Now, I think Joe Justice says that, don't they do that quite a bit? That they may have two lines that are being able to produce something. And it could be that you have, some operations that are lickety split, and you just go down one single line, and then suddenly you come in a bunch of operations that are very slow, and now you branch them off, and you go off in two separate branches, and then eventually come back together. So, that's part of my thought process, is there are things like that going on. Now, what could be happening here? My suspicion is that it gets lifted up. Yeah. So it's not like it's getting lifted over the fence. Along here, we can see these rollers that are up there that then go along this beam, this rail. Right. And that rail ends right about there. So it's not like this transfers really far. Now, it looks like potentially, maybe it's able to roll itself back, but I'm not. Yeah, I mean, potentially it could roll out if it has to. I don't think it's grabbing something from outside and coming in. I really think it's being transferred in this way. The reason why it might be getting lifted up, and we can see, this mechanism, these arms that go down and grab it, is probably because you want to put something underneath. So this might be the marriage station for the structural battery pack. Right. Or for the engines, the motors are going to be back, the wheels.
Right.
And we've got another one way down here as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
my suspicion is that, something gets popped in here, and that these guys here could, because you see you've got one here and you got one there. It could be that this one comes over to here, picks this thing up and ferries it back. And while this one goes over here, this one has picked up a battery module from another line over here.
Right.
And it's just bringing it over and dropping it in. So you have those two that are kind of feeding us. So the first thing we do is get a battery module in there, and then bring this thing over. Or maybe you bring this thing over, you lift it up.
Right.
Okay. You bring the battery module in, then you drop it down on there. So it would be some sequence, something like that. Right. And then it would just kind of keep advancing on down there. So that's my guess. Is it something like that?
The lifting station would be relatively short. It would lift it up, marry it, and then send it down the line. So this might be the midpoint. Then it might be like, if it's a U-shaped line, it comes down, it's halfway constructed, shuttles across, gets picked up, married, and back down.
Oh, it's wafting over here.
I guess I'm glad mine is far away now.
Yeah. No, it's the packaging. Ooh, the packaging material.
Yours must have leaked a little, because my packaging does not smell bad. So I'm thankful.
It was sitting out in the mailbox for a little bit, and who knows how warm it was in there.
Yeah.
The sun baking on it.
Ooh. Well, it stinks, man. I can't believe how much money did we spend on that? I don't even remember. It was a gift.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Don't ask.
It was a lot. So, okay. Yeah. You know what? The one in the back, that red one, the claw thing in the back, looks an awful lot. I think they're just doing an homage to Tron, because that was like one of the things that would come chase him, was those big shaped things. So there you go.
No,
that's what it is.
The only other thing could be is that maybe whatever goes along here takes a while, and maybe these are duplicate cells. Maybe if we walk down there, we would see the other one. And maybe this one way down here is complete, and this is the new one that's getting built up now.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. So
yeah.
So I want to make sure, the reason why I put that out there is a lot of replies to tweets are thinking like, oh, so you think the Cybertruck's not real? They're not making things. Like, no, they're building it. Okay. We've seen those. It's just that what it's telling us is that either, like, again, it's an old photo, or they're still ramping up the production.
Right.
That's the data point. The data point is that they're still building more stuff.
Yeah.
And we've got to try to square that circle. How have they produced number one, but at the same time, we can see something that looks like, I guess, current construction. To me, it looks like, whatever robots should be coming in here are missing.
Yeah.
So yeah. I told you we could get an hour out of 2 pictures.
Right.
We're doing pretty well.
It's also
already.
just
we haven't even got to the second picture
for
yet.
Another quick bit of perspective. Just look how long that hall is, because if this really is the midpoint of construction, this is a lot of stations it's going through to be built.
Yeah. So you could have a lot of parallel stations for a reason.
Right.
Because some of the operations just take a long time, and that's normally in the legacy, when they're building these things, they'll say, well, whatever that operation is, break it up over 2 stations, because we just need to keep the takt time at 45 seconds. Right. And I've never been a fan of that, and evidently neither is Lars. Right. I really get the impression from listening to some of his things. He also thinks maybe that's stupid. So probably the better way is to consolidate those operations in one, and then if you have to make a copy of it, it might make more sense than somehow making the line longer.
Right. It reminds you that the vehicle itself is not really the important part. Most of what they were working on was trying to come up with an efficient way to build it at a reasonable cost.
And remember, it's very different. So when we look at this next picture, the first thing that comes to your mind is what?
It's 2 people. Well, I see casting, and I see a lot of robots in this one, as opposed to.
Well, if you think about it, you see a car body, and you see the robots around there. These are big robots. We're used to always seeing the video inside the different plants and seeing the robots coming down there and spot welding.
Yes.
So, anyone, when you first look at it, your first impression is that, oh, this must be the spot welding line.
Right.
But it's not. Yeah. is I don't know how much, if any, spot welding is being done on the Cybertruck.
Right. And in terms of the body, I mean, it looks like we've got a single piece front casting, single piece rear casting.
Yep.
Maybe the bed is separate. It's hard to tell. And then there's a
right. And Corey pointed out that the structural battery pack is not in here yet.
Yes. Yes.
So this is something preceding probably what we're going, because we're suspecting that the other line is where you get the marriage between the two. So this is kind of the body and white stage that everything is being built up. But if you look at these robots, if these are spot welding robots, I have never seen spot welding weld guns that look anything like this.
Right.
Now, these are our KUKA robots, probably KR-150s or a little bit bigger. They typically are used for spot welding, not because they're spot welding robots, but because they're heavy payload, 150 kilogram payload.
Right, right.
What's interesting about these up front is that you see the cable package that's on here.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen a double cable package. Usually you see it like the robots down here. You have one set of cables going here. I've never seen where they have two. Now, the idea of this cabling is that it's bringing services out to the end of the arm. So you see they continue on out there because whatever end of arm tooling it is requires a lot of something. And it looks like it requires a lot of blue wires that are connected to things that, to me, those little yellow things there almost look like it could be some kind of sensor. Could be wrong. Could be something else. So maybe this is a quality control station and they're just, because this is also a weird looking thing, this cube that's on there. And we see the mirror one over here. So that, both sides have the same robots. So this is something a little bit different. And I can't even tell what's on the end of this thing. Doesn't look normal. It's not like sealant or anything like that, because you'd see a wand or something like that. And usually if you're doing sealing, the car body is going to be up high. So these robots are working from the top. That's why they're standing on these pedestals. So these black things that we see here are typically called pedestals. And you pick the size that you need to get them up there. At the same time, I get the suspicion that there's still a little bit of work in progress going here, because you see there are these boxes lying around, which tells me they're putting stuff in. They're still doing a few things. And they may have been able to run a few tests and get some things either. Or I don't know if this is a parallel line. I kind of doubt it. Now the station back here has apparently another two robots, and this end of arm tooling is also the weirdest end of arm tooling I've ever seen. It almost looks like a spot welding gun, but it doesn't, because you can see it's a little hard to see because it's blocked by that fence. But this little piece, that little section there, it almost looks like a C clamp or something, but it could also be something for clenching or riveting or putting some sort of fastener in there. That's why I wonder if Corey has an idea of what these things are, because it's not what I'm expecting. And it could be that some of these others have something to also do with fastening items in.
Well, that's actually what I was wondering, because wasn't the theory that they were going to use some sort of bolting system to put it together rather than welding? Yeah,
it could be. Now, when you look at a cell like this, if this is a spot welding cell, you're expecting a couple things going on here. Usually when you're spot welding something together, you're bringing two pieces together or multiple pieces.
Yes.
And that usually means that a body panel or something has to be entered in, and then you do that. And if you look at here, there is no material flow that I can see anywhere along here that, other than coming down this line, I don't see how any parts are introduced into the cell. Now, back here, behind here, perhaps there's some stuff going on where parts are kind of coming in and being lightly assembled together. And that would be typical in a spot welding line, where things come in together. You do a couple of welds on there, just enough to keep the body together, and then advances to the next cell to do what they call respot. And their respot, you're not introducing any new parts or anything like that. You're just going in and adding all the additional welds that you need, because you've got 45 seconds to get everything accomplished. So that means you go, and then you hit what you can, and then it moves to the next one. So typically you would look at this and say, oh, these are a bunch of respot lines. They're not. Maybe they're refasten lines or something like that. And that somehow it's kind of brought together down here, and then they come in here to do a little bit more fastening, a little bit more fastening, a little bit more. So that's possible.
There's no way that they could be doing something weird like a sort of a fancy crimping or something, is there? That
You
wouldn't be
could.
strong enough, would
I
it?
mean, but I'm not sure. I don't think they. Are you folding a tab there?
Well,
That would be weird. I mean, you have these seam stations that do a kind of crimping for making your door, for example.
right,
So you have
right,
the sheet metal that comes in there, and they got these really cool machines that basically put the seam on there. And you go through
right,
multiple times, and it just folds the sheet metal over. And it's really cool to look at them because you can't do it in one shot. You bend it a little bit, and you go over it again, you go over it again, and it slowly kind of comes down until you build that seam around there. Because if you do it too quick, you end up breaking the sheet metal. It'll
right.
end up tearing on you. So you will see a lot of companies that make that for the doors and enclosures like that. But we don't really see that in the Cybertruck that I can tell. And
Right.
certainly this part here.
Well, it's just the
body
question
itself.
of if this was a bolting station, it seems like you would have to have some sort of feeder that would feed the bolts in. So
exactly. Now that's what I'm thinking of next here is that we're lacking some symmetry here. You see right down here, this thing. What is that? But we're missing it over on this side. I don't see it over here.
Unless it hasn't been built. It's
kind of hard to tell what it is.
Well, unless it hasn't been completed yet, because it
hasn't been completed.
Pedestals there.
It could be a cable tray just to bring in power, wires and stuff like that, because it does look a little bit like that. Like you typically see the trays for running your internet lines and everything else.
Yeah.
The other possibility is that is the intention of where some kind of conveyor system might come in that feeds in things like bolts. Now, typically, if you were doing something like that, you might have a feeding station out somewhere, because there's a couple of ways that you can do the bolts. The robot can keep going over, pick one up like a bowl feeder or something like that, and go over and put it in back and forth and back and forth. But if you want to do it really quickly, you set up a system where they are being fed actually out to the tip of the bot.
Right.
So you have feeders like that, which means you need to have something like a hyperloop,
right,
where the things are just being blown right on out to there. And certainly these things are wide enough for doing that, but I'm not sure that that's actually what's going on there.
Right. That, yeah.
Now it could be that's what these things are down here for. Because I was wondering, it's like, oh, okay, what are all these bolts for? Right. And are all these bolts because they haven't finished tying these things down? I think they have. I think they're already in place. It could be that they kind of go in and feed a couple of bolts into there or something like that, and go out of the cell and check it out. Make sure it works. It could be as simple as that. That's until they get the bowl feeder in place, or whatever feeder mechanism they would use for it. But it's a little bit speculation at this point.
Right. That does seem particularly slow, especially for Tesla to have to move the arm back and forth and back and forth.
You wouldn't want to do it that way.
Yeah, if they could just feed it straight in. Right.
You can do it. The robots are fairly fast.
Right.
In that you would just be able to get in, depending on your cycle time. But if you have a lot of them, you would prefer to just have them out there so you can go chuk, 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 chuk.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to back and forth, which takes more time and energy and wears out the robot, so you wouldn't want to do it. So typically you would have some sort of feeder that would feed it right out to the very end of the arm.
So in that case, what would the front ones be? Would you imagine they would be some sort of sensor? Maybe, I mean, hell, maybe at this point the frame is supposed to be rigid, so they push on it or something to see if there's deformation and they can sense that. I don't know.
It could be that, the other thing I don't know is because the amount of resources coming out here and services.
Yeah, it's so much.
Are they doing any kind of, but it doesn't look like laser welding. Doesn't look typically what you would see, but it could be that they are maybe doing laser measurement, verify everything is all right. If they'd have that on there, it's very difficult to tell.
Okay.
I tried zooming in and I can't really see much detail.
Yeah.
And the problem is you get
Tesla's really good at releasing these low res pictures that you can't quite see enough detail out of.
When I look in there, it's just that, sometimes you're seeing one thing and you're seeing the wrong thing.
Right.
It's actually something else, but it's so reminiscent of something else that it looks like the kind of sensors, like proximity sensors and other kinds of sensors that you would see on conveyor systems and everything else. But doesn't mean that's what it is. It just kind of looks like it. So the main takeaway is that this is very interesting end of arm tooling, which is unique.
Right.
It's not what we've seen in any other Tesla videos or any videos of any other body shop.
Wow.
You're not going to see that.
Do you think in that case that this is a custom, like whether or not KUKA made that or whether Tesla made that, it would be a custom design that, as far as you know, doesn't exist? Like it's new.
Yeah. So they, those are the KUKA arms. I don't know who the integrator is. So, KUKA does have an integration arm, if you want to call it that. That KUKA Systems, which actually, would make some of these things. In many cases, they are integrating from other suppliers. So there are a lot of weld guns you can get out there that, weld guns are kind of semi-custom. It's like, for the most part, they're almost all the same at this point. They've come down to the kind of design you want to have. It's just a question of dimensions, changing a few things here and there. But then there are these shops where they just come up with custom tooling. And it can be done one of two ways: is they're going outside to these integrators that do this kind of stuff. And they may already have a solution very close to that, or they're able to cobble one together. Or this could be something that Tesla's actually built in-house. Should not surprise me that they've gone in there and said,
certainly not, considering that we just saw about the Tesla bot and having completely in-house built actuators soon.
This here looks to me like something they're cobbled together. Anyone that's kind of used to these aluminum extrusions, you see these things here. So these silver parts here, which are these typical aluminum extrusions that you have, are just really popular in the industry because you can make anything out of them.
Yes.
They're just, you can make fencing out of it, you can make conveyors out of it. So anything that you just got to throw together that's very custom, you just make it out of those things. And I'm looking at this, and it almost looks like it might be jury rigged from that. So some of the other end of arm tooling we've looked at is also kind of built up. It's very typical.
Right.
If you were going to be mass producing something, you probably wouldn't be using these aluminum extrusions. You would come up with something else. Okay. So when you start seeing that, it screams out to you. It's like, yep, that's a one-off.
Right. So it's something that would eventually get replaced by something more refined. But yeah.
Well, I mean, if you were going to be making, thousands of them.
Oh, but you're saying if it's just for this one station, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So maybe, at most you just need a couple.
Right.
And
so can I ask you a naive question? And that is that if this had, let's say those ones with the white end of arm tooling at the back, if those actually were spot welders, wouldn't you have to have some sort of light shielding on the walls around it to keep people from seeing that, or not?
Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, a little bit. That's not quite as bad as arc welding.
Okay.
It's not quite as bad. And it depends upon sort of the distance you are from it. And that was the conundrum of why they had that orange curtain, which is like some sort of UV protection to block that light so you can see enough of it coming through. They also sometimes have things like that for laser.
Okay.
I think that you also have to be careful about lasers reflecting, and certainly powerful lasers. So if they were doing laser welding, they would probably have more shielding around there.
Okay.
Because laser welding is really tricky, or especially laser cutting. The robots that are in there, they are in a sealed room. The room is completely light sealed off, because the laser can reflect off of anything and go shooting around, and then next thing you know, it hits someone in the eye, even though they're really far away. So you have to be extremely careful that the light literally doesn't get out of the box. The laser doesn't get out of the box. So Nick's, the only reason they would have, if these were lasers, these would be low powerful lasers that you're only using for measurement. Probably not for welding, and definitely not for cutting.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
I decided it might be worthwhile to bring in these other pictures, which were the pilot line from the first quarter report, and to see if this can help inform us of what's going on. And I don't really see anything from here that's common between them. I was trying to get an idea if there's something, here we do know that, there's measurement going on there, but there will be some sort of quality control, but this was probably just to check it out to make sure everything's right in the pilot line. But this was the only picture we had from the first quarter showing the Giga Texas factory and the Cybertruck. So this is the tooling for it. And this is not the same area. It's a completely different area.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the Giga Press. So what we're seeing around here looks like, and this is a FANUC robot, and I think that's the FANUC robot that removes the casting from the Giga Press and seeing it under construction. So I didn't see any commonality between what's in this line here and what we're seeing elsewhere.
Okay. Huh.
So
well,
there were no clues. I was trying to look for breadcrumbs, but I didn't see any.
It's Tesla. It's and the thing is, like, when you get done with it, like after a while, when you see the real production line, you'll be like, oh, it makes perfect sense now. But of course, they love to drop these clues that are in plain sight, but people just can't quite figure out what they mean. So yeah. This one at least is really, really cool to see. Like the fact that there is this gigantic, like with all these stations, and I would assume that this was staged for the picture because it's got the Cybertruck under a canopy. You know, that it's not,
I mean, as far as it's not like this quarterly report was put together 2 months ago,
right?
Because I didn't put it in here. The picture right after this one in the report is everyone standing around the first production vehicle.
Right.
And so it's like, well, they were able to add in a photograph they took last Friday. I think they could also add in another photograph that they may have taken the line recently. And so it's a bit of a mystery that if the line is really up and running, why aren't they showing us like the line in operation with the robots and the workers around there and everything else? And it's almost like they want to throw us off the scent.
Yeah.
You know, they really want Tesla Q to go to town and say, you see,
it's just really one body.
And you know, you're looking at this like, why is that covered up in there? I mean, it's sort of like it's just there for testing purposes,
right?
And because they don't want us to see exactly what it looks like at that state, or are they really careful to make sure they don't want any internal pictures leaking showing what the production really looks like, because there's trade secrets. So they decided, we'll have a little bit, and that's about all I got.
Okay, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, it's very here. Let's go ahead and stop sharing here for a sec. Stop sharing. There we go. I personally find it really fascinating to look at something like that, but also to think about what Tesla is doing when they show a picture, those pictures, because even though they put this quarterly report together a few days ago, more than likely those are pictures. It just screams out that those are early. If they've got these things, if they're pumping out trucks like release candidates off the production line, it doesn't make sense that they would only have one in an entirely empty production line.
Right. Yeah. They're either trying to tell us that they don't want to show us anything, or it's like, oh, this is the second line. This is a parallel line. So it's a breadcrumb there. There's a reason this picture's in there. Right. And all I'm doing is throwing out the possibilities, and then everyone else has to sort of decide on their own what the answer is.
Well, one thing that becomes blindingly obvious now was why they had shareholder day so early this year, because they did not want people around now. Because shareholder day, excuse me, in 2022 was August 4th, I think. It
was like now.
Yeah, it would have been like a week or two from now.
Yeah, exactly. That's when it should have been, and that was our speculation, is that they wanted there to be no events in Austin until the Cybertruck rollout.
So so the next event that'll happen in Austin is almost surely the Cybertruck delivery event, and who knows when that's going to happen, but maybe at a guess, maybe September. Maybe. I mean, do you think from looking at I don't know how many trucks they have now off the line.
Okay. I'm going to say September because they keep on saying in Q3 ends September 30th.
Right.
So it's going to, more likely it's in September, because they probably want to give themselves enough time, but they could shock us and do it in August.
Yeah.
But given the heat waves that you're having down in Texas, I think they're probably going to want to wait till September. Who's going to want to go to Austin right now?
Well, you could bake bread in your mailbox while you're waiting for the Cybertruck. So
evidently. Wow. So, I mean, is it really that hot in that? I mean, I saw that. I was wondering if that was just a joke that someone put together.
Right.
Because I know it's hot out. I know the sun is coming on down on there, but doesn't it have to be at least 300 degrees in there to bake bread?
Well, it depends. If you leave it for 8 hours, I bet it would bake at 150 or 200. And certainly you can get to 200 in a space like that. So
okay. So maybe, yeah. I always think that the temperature has to be up a little bit higher, but yeah, maybe it's just to make it cook quicker.
Right. I don't know.
So
it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot in Georgia too right now. Although supposedly we're going to get thunderstorms this afternoon. That'll be nice. But anyway,
I suppose at some point we'll talk about Optimus and what was discussed yesterday about that.
Yeah, that's an exciting thing. That's a topic for another day. And of course, cancer, early detection. We're going to do
We already have a title. We already have a title for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cancer doesn't have to suck.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. And there you go. So cancer doesn't have to suck. It can be okay.
Yep.
So there we go.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for presenting this. This was actually really, really fascinating. I learned a lot because, of course, I don't know that much about industrial robots and things. And the end of arm tooling just looked like something cool to me. And you're like, no, something awesome is happening here.
That's the whole name of the game, the end of arm tooling.
Right. So
you can put anyone's robot there. Doesn't matter whose robot it is, but the end of arm tooling does. That matters.
Something fascinating is happening, and they're leaving. What is it? Hiding it in plain sight. They're like, here it is, but you don't know what it is. So yeah.
Was that a pun there? The way you said fascinating.
It was an unintentional pun. How's that?
Yes.
All righty, folks. Thank you so much, Scott, for joining us. I don't think I said, hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All at the beginning, so I'll say it now. But anyway, hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All with Dr. Scott Walter. Don't forget to do the like and subscribe thing. Go to the merch store, get this cool shirt, get the cool mug. Check out Scott's stuff. I always leave a link to his thing, his Twitter. It's Going Ballistic 5 on Twitter. And so you can follow him there. And once again, a big thanks to Shortform and Shortform AI. Be sure to click the link in the description, get 25% off your subscription price, and get full access to Shortform AI. In the meantime, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.